For years, there has been a comfortable silence hanging over Silicon Valley, a sense of inevitability. The narrative in the boardrooms of San Francisco and the coffee shops of Palo Alto was settled. The United States, led by the titans of industry, OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic, own the future of artificial intelligence. The assumption was that the sheer scale of American compute, the depth of capital, and the head start in talent created a moat so wide that no competitor from across the Pacific could possibly swim across it. We were told that the chip sanctions, the export controls on NVIDIA's H100 GPUs, and the geopolitical friction would suffocate China's AI ambitions before they could ever truly threaten the throne. We were told to look away. We were told the race was effectively over before the starting gun for the second lap had even fired. But arrogance is a dangerous blinder. While the Western world was busy debating the safety of closed-source models and marveling at the latest iteration of ChatGPT, something fundamental shifted in the East. It wasn't a loud explosion. It was the quiet, precise click of a puzzle piece falling into place. The narrative of American hegemony in artificial intelligence just hit a wall. And that wall has a name. It is called Moonshot AI. The company recently unveiled a model known as K2 Thinking. And this isn't just another copycat large language model trained on a censored internet. This is a reasoning engine. A system designed not just to speak, but to think, to plan, to execute. The specifications that have leaked out and the benchmarks that have been published suggest that the technological gap between the US and China hasn't just narrowed. In some specific, terrifyingly complex verticals, it may have vanished entirely. Today, we are going to walk through exactly what happened. We are going to deconstruct how a startup in Beijing, operating under the heaviest tech sanctions in history, managed to build an open-source intelligence that is challenging the crown jewels of Google and Microsoft. We need to talk about what it means when an AI can think for 300 sequential steps without a human holding its hand. This is the story of the K2 thinking model and why the dragon didn't just wake up, it learned how to calculate. To understand the magnitude of this release, we first have to understand the battlefield. For the last 2 years, the AI war has been fought on the front lines of generative capabilities. It was about who could write the best poem, who could generate the most realistic image, or who could summarize a meeting note the fastest. That was the era of System 1 thinking, fast, intuitive, reflex-based responses. It's the AI equivalent of reciting a fact you memorized. But the frontier has moved. The Holy Grail is now System 2 thinking. This is slow, deliberate, logical reasoning. It is the ability to look at a problem, realize you don't know the answer immediately, and then formulate a plan to find it. This is where OpenAI's O1 and Google's Gemini have been trying to stake their claim. And this is exactly where Moonshot AI just planted its flag. Moonshot AI is not a state-owned dinosaur. It is one of China's new breed of aggressive unicorns, founded by Yang Jilin, a prodigy in the computer science world who was instrumental in the development of earlier transformer architectures. They aren't interested in just making a chatbot. They are interested in solving the lost in the middle problem, the tendency for AI to lose focus when a task gets too long or too complex. With the release of K2 Thinking, they have introduced a model that openly challenges the reasoning capabilities of the very best Western models. And the most disruptive part? They are banking on open source. While American labs are increasingly locking their doors, hiding their weights, and turning their research into proprietary black boxes, Moonshot is taking a different approach. They are putting the tools in the hands of the developers. Let's look at the raw capabilities, because the numbers here tell a story that goes far beyond marketing hype. The industry standard for measuring true intelligence right now isn't how well you can write a high school essay. It's how well you can survive chaos. Moonshot claims that K2 Thinking can execute up to 300 sequential tool calls without a single human input. Let that sink in for a moment. 300 steps. Most commercial models today, even the expensive ones, start to hallucinate or loop in circles after 10 or 15 steps of complex reasoning. If you ask a standard AI to solve a multi-layered problem, it often forgets the original goal halfway through. K2 Thinking is different. It creates a chain of reasoning. It reads the prompt. It formulates a plan. It searches for information. It writes code to process that information. It verifies the result, realizes the result is wrong, debugs its own code, reruns the test, and continues this cycle until it reaches a solid conclusion. It is an autonomous loop of self-correction. They demonstrated this with a PhD-level math problem involving hyperbolic geometry. This isn't something you can just look up on Wikipedia. It requires deriving formulas and understanding abstract spatial relationships. K2 thinking didn't just guess. It went through 23 nested reasoning and tool calls. It searched for relevant academic papers, parsed the mathematical notation, executed Python code to test its theories, verified the intermediate results to ensure it wasn't drifting off course, and derived the correct formula. This is the kind of multi-step planning that separates a chatbot from a digital scientist. It is the difference between an intern who needs constant supervision and a senior researcher who you can leave alone for a week. But math is abstract. Let's talk about the messiness of the real world. One of the most impressive demonstrations of K2 thinking involved a task that would drive a human investigator crazy. The model was asked to identify a specific, obscure actor, Jimmy Gary Jr. Based on a vague, multi-layered description. The prompt provided clues about a university degree, a stint in the NFL, and specific film roles, but never mentioned his name. To solve this, you can't just guess. You have to triangulate. The model ran more than 20 separate search queries. It cross-referenced databases. It checked Wikipedia. It pulled data from IMDb. It filtered out false positives, people who played in the NFL but didn't act, or actors who didn't go to that specific university. It assembled a coherent, fact-checked answer from a scatterplot of noise. This is long-horizon reasoning. It is the ability to hold a complex goal in working memory while performing dozens of small tactical tasks to achieve it. The benchmarks backing this up are startling. We need to look at humanity's last exam. This is a benchmark designed to be brutally difficult, filled with thousands of expert-level questions spanning over 100 distinct disciplines, from quantum physics to ancient history. It is designed to break AI models. K2 thinking scored 40.9%. Now, 40.9% might sound low if you were thinking about a school grade. But in the context of this specific exam, where random guessing gets you 0 and most models fail to even understand the question, 40.9% is elite territory. Places it shoulder to shoulder with the most advanced proprietary systems in the world. Then there is the coding benchmark, S-Bench verified. Coding is the ultimate test of logic because code either works or it crashes. There is no middle ground for hallucination. On this metric, K2 thinking scored 71.3%. It isn't just writing snippets, it is building architecture. In real-world use cases, the model has been shown to build full websites or word-style editors from a single prompt, handling complex front-end work like React components without needing a human to fix the syntax errors. Perhaps the most revealing metric, however, is the Browse Comp benchmark. This tests an AI's ability to browse the web continuously, navigate through pages, and research like a human user. The human benchmark, the average score a person gets, is 29.2%. K2 thinking hit 60.2%. It is literally twice as effective at navigating the web for information as the average human. So, how did they do it? How did a Chinese company, supposedly starved of the best hardware, build a Ferrari engine? The answer lies in efficiency and a concept called test time scaling. Moonshot AI, along with other Chinese labs, realized that if they couldn't beat the US on raw training compute, the massive clusters of tens of thousands of H100Cs, they had to beat them on inference efficiency. Test time scaling is the new battlefield. It basically means giving the model more time to think before it answers. Instead of rushing to generate the first token, the model is allowed to spin its wheels, explore different pathways, simulate outcomes, and critique its own logic in the background before it presents a final answer. It is the computational equivalent of thinking before you speak. By optimizing for this reasoning phase, Moonshot has managed to squeeze significantly more intelligence out of their available hardware. They aren't just throwing more data at the problem, they are changing how the model processes the data it already has. This is a strategic pivot. While U.S. labs are obsessed with making models larger, Chinese labs are obsessed with making models smarter per parameter. This brings us to the geopolitical earthquake this release represents. For the last few years, the U.S. strategy has been containment. The CHIPS Act, the export bans, the entity lists, it was all designed to freeze Chinese AI development at the GPT-3 level. The theory was that without the cutting-edge silicon, they couldn't train the cutting-edge models. K2 thinking is proof that the containment strategy is leaking. It turns out that necessity is the mother of optimization. By forcing Chinese companies to work with fewer chips or less powerful chips, we inadvertently forced them to become better software engineers. They couldn't rely on brute force, so they relied on architectural innovation. They built leaner, meaner, more efficient systems. And now Moonshot is deploying these systems as open source. This is a direct challenge to the business models of OpenAI and Google. The American giants are betting on a subscription model. You pay $20 a month for access to the Oracle. Moonshot is releasing the weights, or at least highly accessible APIs and open thinking architectures to the developer community. This mirrors the strategy we saw with Meta's Llama models, but it's coming from Beijing. If the best reasoning models become a commodity that you can run locally or integrate cheaply, the moat around the closed-source US models begins to evaporate. Why pay a premium for Gemini if K2 thinking can do the same 300-step reasoning task for a fraction of the cost, or for free if you host it yourself? We are also seeing a philosophical difference in how these AI agents are framed. In the US, there is a lot of hand-wringing about AGI artificial general intelligence and safety. We have endless debates about alignment. In China, the focus appears to be fiercely pragmatic: application, productivity, automation. The K2 model is being positioned not as a godlike entity, but as a worker. It is being integrated into tools that automate coding, data analysis, and research. It is being built to do jobs. This pragmatic focus means they are iterating faster on the features that actually drive economic value, like that ability to plan a website or solve a math problem, rather than getting bogged down in the existential philosophy of machine consciousness. This brings us to the broader context of the agentic future. We are moving away from chatbots. Chatbots are passive. You talk to them, they talk back. Agents are active. You give them a goal, and they go do the work. K2 thinking is an agentic model. Imagine the implications for the workforce. If you have an AI that can take a messy Excel sheet, write its own Python code to analyze it, fix the bugs in that code, and generate a report, you have just automated the junior data analyst role. If you have an AI that can plan a React application and write the components, you have automated the junior developer. Moonshot's demo of the Jimmy Gary Jr. search task is essentially automating the role of a junior researcher or a private investigator. The economic value of a model that can autonomously execute 300 steps is immense. It transforms the cost of cognition. Complex mental tasks that used to cost hundreds of dollars in human billing hours drop to fractions of a cent in compute time. But there is another player we must mention to fully understand the competitive landscape. While Moonshot is pushing the boundaries of reasoning, Google is trying to counter with models like DataStar or D-Star. D-Star is Google's answer to the autonomous data scientist. It runs a swarm of specialized agents to handle messy business data. It is impressive, scoring 45% on data analysis benchmarks, where the base Gemini model only scored 12%. However, the existence of D-Star actually highlights why K2 thinking is so significant. D-Star requires a complex multi-agent architecture, a swarm of 6 specialized agents to achieve its results. It needs a planner, a coder, a debugger, and a verifier all working in concert. K2 thinking aims to internalize this process into a single, cohesive reasoning flow. It is trying to be the brainmate of subbrains within one model architecture, rather than a stitched-together system of different bots. The fact that Moonshot is achieving comparable reasoning feats with a unified open-source-centric approach is what has the researchers in the West double-checking their spreadsheets. The arrival of K2 thinking also signals the explosion of the thinking model war. OpenAI started it with O1. Google followed with the 2.0 and 2.5 updates to Gemini. And now Moonshot has entered the ring. This is no longer a unipolar world. We have a bipolar, or perhaps multipolar, AI ecosystem emerging. On one side, you have the closed, capital-intensive, hardware-rich American labs. On the other, you have the resource-constrained, efficiency-obsessed, open-source-leaning Chinese labs. And history teaches us that betting against the side that is forced to be efficient is usually a bad idea. The dragon in this story isn't just a single company. It's the ecosystem. Moonshot is backed by the giants of Chinese tech. Investments linked to Alibaba and Tencent run deep in this sector. These companies have data lakes that rival anything Google possesses. They have the super app ecosystem of WeChat, where an AI agent could theoretically be integrated into every aspect of 1 billion people's daily lives: payment, messaging, shopping, travel. The deployment ramp for a model like K2 is vertical and instantaneous. So, where do we go from here? The release of K2 thinking is a wake-up call. It shatters the illusion that the chip bans secured a permanent victory for the West. It proves that intelligence is not just a function of how many GPUs you have, but how you use them. It validates the chain of thought, reasoning approach as the future of AI. We are entering a period where the capabilities of these systems will compound. Today, K2 can think for 300 steps. Next year, will it be 3,000? What happens when an AI can plan for days, not just minutes? What happens when it can run a research project that lasts a month, navigating obstacles, pivoting strategies, and learning from failures, all without human intervention? Moonshot AI has shown us that the future of reasoning is not an American monopoly. The competition is fierce, it is global, and it is accelerating. The dragon hasn't just awakened, it has done the math, it has written the code, and it is ready to compete. As we watch this unfold, the question isn't just who has the better AI. The question is, which philosophy will win? The closed garden or the open field? The brute force of hardware or the elegance of software? We are witnessing the most important technological race in human history. And for the first time in a long time, the outcome is far from certain. What do you think? Does the rise of Chinese open-source AI threaten the dominance of ChatGPT and Gemini, or is this just a temporary spike in the data? I want to hear your thoughts on the geopolitics of code down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the shifting powers of the AI world, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And subscribe so you don't miss the next story. I'll catch you in the next one.